All right. Good afternoon, everybody, or good day wherever you are. If you happen to be watching this later on YouTube, welcome to this latest in a series of Foreign Correspondents Club Hong Kong Zoom events. I'm Keith Richburg. I'm the president of the FCC Hong Kong. Before we get to today's event, I just want to tell you to please keep an eye on our website, fccHK.org, for all of our upcoming events, including you don't want to miss next Thursday, the 24th, where we're going to be talking about the COVID crisis in Hong Kong and China with two experts. So really definitely keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on all of our other upcoming Zoom events. Really, I'm really honored today. This month is actually the 50th anniversary of my favorite movie of all time, Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather. If you haven't seen it, look at The Godfather. In honor of The Godfather, we have the Godfather of Lan Kwai Fong right here. I'll call him Dr Allan Zeman. He's I can't even get into everything, but 50th anniversary of the movie. He's been in Hong Kong for 50 years. He is the chairman of the Lan Kwai Fong Group and has done all kinds of other things, including advising the government. I'll just turn right away and say, sure. the man who needs no introduction, thank you for coming in, and an FCC member.
Absolutely.
A proud FCC.
For many years.
For many years, FCC member. We always love the fact that FCC is right here, Lan Kwai Fong is right up the road.
Yeah. We're family.
We're family.
Brother and sister.
Exactly. We're brother and sister, yeah. Let's jump right in if we can.
Absolutely.
Okay? Last night, I came here to the club. It was St. Patrick's Day. I had to leave at 6 p.m. because that's the new closing time.
Yes.
And so I just walked up through Lan Kwai Fong,
Yes.
which I had not done. I was sad. It was deserted. I saw a few places that were doing takeout were open, but most of the bars were closed. The actual Lan Kwai Fong Street was kind of barricaded down and looked bombed out. I mean, can that ever recover?
It's a sore spot. We've been through this for 3 years now, going on 3 years, and every time when things open up after the regulations of closing down, and obviously 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. is difficult because you've got a lunch business where you can only seat two people to a table, which really doesn't work, and takeaway gives you a very, very small percentage, if any. And not every restaurant is geared up for takeaway. And so at the end of the day, yes, it is like a ghost town walking through there at nighttime. Breaks my heart as well. But one thing I know is once these viruses end, and once it comes to a finish and they start to get back to what we call the old normality, there's pent-up demand. It happened in the third wave, the second wave, the first wave. Business was actually very, very good when it did open up. And so up until December last year, business was booming, actually. Everybody was doing very, very well. I'm expecting, hopefully, we can have an end to this virus restrictions and hopefully very soon. And hopefully, as soon as it does, I'm optimistic there'll be pent-up demand. As happened everywhere in the world, the last half should be a very, very strong half.
But how many of these bars and restaurants I saw are not coming back?
That's a good question. That's a problem because many have been closed since January, and no income coming in. The good news is that Carrie Lam today, this morning, announced the ESS, the Employment Subsidy Scheme, which we had in 2020. And if you saw the letter that I wrote to her, I asked for the ESS.
The letter that you didn't initially say you wrote, but then it got leaked out. And
it just went viral and a lot after that. But I think that it really will help. That will be a game changer for many, many people, as happened in 2020, because it's 3 months now, up to $8,000 per employee. That will help about 1.1 million employees in Hong Kong. And I think that, and also you have an impetus, you can't fire any employers or let employees go. So I think they're listening. That I really, really take my hat off to that. And I don't really wear hats, but in essence, it's a game changer especially for the industry in Hong Kong and
Absolutely.
The gyms as well, who have been closed. Live music.
Musicians are hurting.
Everyone, in general, everyone. So luckily, someone in government is listening, and I really applaud Carrie in this instance, after she's taken so much criticism, for really, really helping.
And well, let's talk about the restrictions first
Sure.
a little bit. 6 p.m. closing.
Yeah.
Why? What, does the virus not only go out after 6? I mean, why not 9 p.m.
You know,
closing?
I've asked the same question. Obviously, we have a team of so-called medical experts that Carrie was relying on, and I don't want to demean them because, but the problem is, the big problem, the reason I wrote that letter was that we were getting such mixed messages from government officials, from these so-called experts who never agreed with one another.
Right.
Even in today, if
Every
you
morning
look at
I wake up and let me see what the
everyone,
experts are saying.
everyone
on
has,
RTHK.
everyone has a different bit of advice, and that's really caused a lot of confusion, a lot of panic for people, and so basically it's really been the biggest problem, and that's who she was listening to. I kept saying we also need a balance. Health is very important, but why not have 3 or 4 business people
Right.
who as well can balance the business? There's no point being healthy if you don't have a job and you can't earn any
Well, that's their
any
job.
money.
The expert's job is only to look at how do we crush this virus without looking at the whole
because
picture.
most, as you well know, most doctors, most medical people are not business people.
Exactly.
You know, and that is a problem because we have an economy. We're in the international financial center, you know, and a great city for that. And we've got a reputation to maintain, and that was always been my kind of pet peeve with the government, but at the end, we hopefully now, it looks like I'm pretty confident now because the virus has been peaking. Omicron is not something, unfortunately the mistake that I believe the government made was not to have mandatory vaccination.
Right.
And if
At least for the elderly.
for everyone at the end of the day, because we can see people who catch this Omicron, because Omicron is not, Alpha and Delta are diseases of the lung and takes longer to transmit. With this Omicron, it is upper respiratory, so it's in the throat and in the nose, and so just breathing the air can really infect you. The good thing is it's not as violent as Alpha and Delta, and so if you're vaccinated, we can see those people survive. If you have pre-existing conditions, then, and you're not vaccinated, then you have a problem. With Hong Kong's aging population, that was the biggest problem. The fact that she wanted to pass mandatory vaccination, but then families and older people, because we did so well during the first 2 pandemics, people saying, oh, I don't need it, we have 0 cases, I'm 80 years old, 95 years old, what do I need it? And we have over 1,000 care homes, and basically, if it gets into the care homes like it has,
It is in the
it's
care homes,
rampant, like it has, it becomes rampant, and I knew this would happen. That was my biggest fear. And so if we could turn the clock back again, that would have been a game changer for Hong Kong.
Mandatory
We would
vaccination.
not have over 5,000 people passing away, 80% of them the elderly. You know,
Right.
it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, I was in Lan Kwai Fong. There was a
Yes.
young woman in her 20s, local
Yeah.
woman, and she's a gym trainer.
Yes.
She was trying to train people in an open public park, you know,
Yes.
one-on-one.
I know.
And she was saying, she said, look, I have to do this. I have no income.
Yes.
And she said, I've done everything. I've gotten vaccinated. I've gotten boosted. And she said, and I want you to respond to what
Yeah.
she said. She said, why am I being punished?
Yeah.
I did everything right, but I'm being punished.
You know, a lot of people in Hong Kong felt the same way. I got vaccinated. I have the booster. I did everything possible. You know that
I did
I
what
was
you told me
asked
to
to
do.
do. That I did. That I was asked
But
to
I'm
do.
still being punished.
But now I'm being punished because the old people. And I understand. Put it this way: if it was my mother or father in the old people's home or whatever, of course you want them to live. It's a very difficult decision for the government, and I guess that's why. Hopefully now the employee ESS, the employee subsidy scheme, will help that girl. So at least you'll get some
little bit.
something. Well, 8,000 a month. You know,
It's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing for 3 months.
Musicians are having to do
for-
private lessons
for 3
and-
months. For 3 months. So at least it's part of your salary. At least it helps you to survive. And the good news is Hong Kong U has, you know, Gabriel Leung has said that we're now in the final stages, the peak. And if you look around the world, unfortunately, Hong Kong was the laggard.
Yes.
This virus went all over the world. Hong Kong was safe.
We had two good years.
Yeah, until it was going to enter anyhow, for whatever happened. It's all over the world. And so the problem was we were the laggard. And because of that, the problem that the government has, they should have learned from what was going around along the world. You cannot do the same thing, contact tracing, like the things that work for Alpha Delta.
Yeah.
It
find
just
every
transmits
case,
too
find
quick.
their contacts.
It transmits too quickly. It went through into all the districts, and it's a physical impossibility. That's why what happened around the world was that in the UK, finally when it peaks after 4, 5, 6 weeks, it does peak. And then it stays there for a week or two, and then once it finishes the peak, the decrease, it starts to come down, and that's why I'm looking at April. That hopefully the end of this month, the peak will finish, and the decrease, or might even start earlier, and then by end of April, we should hopefully be out of it or towards the tail end of it.
But that's a long, end of April is still 6 weeks away.
Yes.
Gabriel Lung was talking six
Yes,
weeks. A lot of people are sitting here saying, I can't survive 6 more weeks of this.
But that's why she's given the ESS. And I'm hoping on Sunday and Monday, which she had said yesterday in her 11 a.m.
The Daily Show.
Daily Show, yeah. I'm hoping that she will announce that they will hopefully drop the quarantine measure to 7 days from 14 days.
Why was it ever
which would
14
be a game
days?
changer.
It doesn't make any sense.
Again, it's health, it's science, it's health experts said that for safety. Why was it 21 days
Yeah,
when
it was
really
21 days.
really 14 days was working everywhere else
we
in
have
the world?
to be extra careful.
Because they
we don't
said
want to take any chances.
well,
Yeah.
but that was the culture, and that's listen, she's not a doctor.
Yeah.
She can only go by her experts, and that's what they told her. And the other thing that they were worried about, which I understand, no hospital beds. If it went rampant, which is what happened here.
Right.
The hospital authority has approximately 2,600 beds. Private hospitals at that time were not taking COVID patients. And it was a really big problem. And so now we have, with the help of China, we have 26,000 beds in the hospital authority. And that is a game changer. And that's why this thing that you're probably going to ask me about, I'll answer the question. This expat mother, whose 11-month-old daughter tested positive, and the mother went to a public hospital and was refused admittance.
Yeah, we'll take
to
the
stay
baby,
over.
but you can't stay.
To stay because
that's insane.
And I said I felt terrible
That's
about
insane.
that.
That caused more expats to leave than
yes,
anything. Yeah.
I agree. And what happened was that it was explained to me that basically they had no hospital, they had no beds. And basically, it was people who were dying. Either you let someone who was about to die or pass away or whatever, or try to save a life, or let a mother who is, and again, it's very difficult.
That's
it's
a
a difficult
bureaucrat
decision.
making that decision.
It's a difficult
The proper
decision.
decision was take your baby
home.
home.
Today, they've learned a good lesson, because that was a headline that went around the world, did a lot of damage to Hong Kong. Headlines: Hong Kong is insensitive. Americans said, don't come to Hong Kong because your children.
It's a travel advisory.
Yeah, I know, travel advisory. That was a big mistake. I mean, if I was there, maybe it would have been different. But whatever, bureaucrats made the decision, and they've learned from it, and now there's enough, with the help of China, there's been a lot, all these 70,000 isolation facilities that will be there, and the hotels. That'll change. That'll be a big.
Well, let me ask you, because one of the reasons for this shortage of hospital beds is because they insisted everybody who tested positive had to go to a hospital.
Yeah.
I have had almost every friend I have in the States has had COVID. The doctor says, go home, lock yourself in, test yourself after 5 days, and you're fine.
I agree. I mean, the problem is we learned it was a comedy of errors, unfortunately. Not really.
Oh, I'm positive. I got to go to a hospital.
Not really a comedy, but finally they allowed rapid tests, the RAT, instead of PCRs, and so that was a real game changer as far as I'm concerned. People could test themselves every morning. Our staff tested themselves every morning with a rapid test, and if they test positive, okay, then I might take a PCR test, and then self-isolation was another thing. It was the problem that the government had, I believe, is that we have many small
Yes,
flats.
absolutely
People living in
problem.
subdivided flats, these housing estates, one on top of the other.
The sewage issue. Yeah.
Sewage issue. And what happened is sometimes you have 6 people living in a 150
Absolutely.
square foot house.
And elderly people
flat.
living in that.
Elderly as
flat,
well
yeah.
with parents. So when somebody gets infected, many of them didn't want to stay home because you don't want to infect your mother, father, whatever,
Absolutely.
elderly. And so they wanted to go to an isolation
Absolutely.
facility. We didn't have it at the time. And took the Liang Wenjian from China,
Exactly,
from
yeah.
Beijing. He was a godsend. I mean, literally, I thank China for sending him and really building those isolation facilities.
Right.
Took the pressure off the hospitals. I
Right.
know there's a lot of criticism. They didn't look good, but what do you want in a week, you know? In essence, it saves lives. And so now we're getting there. That's why I can see light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, let me ask you about this
Yep.
isolation facility
Correct.
question, because okay, I live at home. If I got COVID,
Yeah.
I can stay at home. I have a separate bathroom. The key to a happy marriage is always have a separate bathroom. Why would they send me off to an isolation facility where I'm surrounded by a bunch of people coughing with COVID when I can easily stay at home?
Well, they
and
didn't-
I don't live in one of these situations where there's multi-generational
They
families.
forced, yeah, but at the end they weren't very clear because I can understand the government. They are in a bind because they didn't want to say that those people, say the underprivileged or those people, the grassroots who live in smaller homes or whatever, and so why should the people that can afford a bigger house be able to self-isolate? In the end, they had no choice.
Because it relieves pressure on
I
the
agree
system.
with you. I agree with you. They had no choice at the end. It came to that. But with governments, sometimes it takes time until they understand that. I'm not saying it's right. I know why they do it, and it's not the right thing as far as I'm concerned. And that's why when China came here, they immediately said, there's nothing with mass testing or anything. It's too late for that.
Yeah.
Just look after the saving a life, saving the elderly, and that's basically what happened. And that's why suddenly the whole focus changed.
focus changed,
And
yeah.
what people in the hospital authority told me, he really laid out a whole map to change things, and things got a lot better.
So China's not telling Carrie Lam what to do.
No, basically not. They gave advice. You want to take it, you take it. You don't, you don't. And from what I know, they just give advice at the moment. You know, Han Zheng or even President Xi Jinping said, you guys better get your act together. And they do the same in China, where you know when it breaks out in a province or in a city or something like that, if somebody messes up, they get fired, you know. And so basically, they did no different. And so at the end, they're leaving Hong Kong to really make, you know, fix everything and hopefully get out of it.
Well, President Xi Jinping was saying just in the last day or so that they're sticking with zero COVID strategy. Carrie Lam is saying we got to look at opening up. People are getting tired of this. She said tolerance is fading. Is Carrie Lam going rogue?
Well, I can tell you, you know, this political nonsense between opening up or living with it and the other thing
Or lying
is
flat
COVID or dynamic zero.
Dynamic
you know?
zero, it's all...
I mean, if you look around the world, every country that was really trying to suppress this virus, U.S., U.K., everywhere, everybody was trying to do their best to really, whatever the word was, dynamic, to get to dynamic zero. Dynamic zero didn't mean zero. It meant attack it, isolate it, and try to minimize the infections. And so China gave it a name, dynamic zero, but they very clearly said it doesn't mean we get down to zero. And you can see what they're doing now in China, just trying to isolate it, and Jilin and everywhere else.
Shenzhen.
And so basically, once it peaks, and once the numbers started going down, Boris Johnson was the one that first said, oh, now we got to get our jobs back. We got to open the bars, open the clubs, open the restaurants, everything. So we'll live with it now. And that was where the terminology came from. Then Biden did the same thing once, but going up, they were all trying to get dynamic zero.
Get those numbers down.
Get those numbers down. Yeah. So
the
everybody was doing exactly the same thing,
Right.
but it's just terminology, and because political BS at the end of the day, China then says, we have to save lives and we believe in dynamic zero. But once it opens up again, you're basically living with it. So
we're all living with it.
Hong Kong's the same thing.
A million cases now. We're living with it.
Once we get back, and if she does allow on Sunday or Monday the 7-day quarantine and flights back again, the 9 countries that are banned from flying to Hong Kong, and we get back in business, we're living with it again.
We're living with it.
No matter what you're going to call it.
What else could she do, should she do, would be your dream? 9 p.m. closings for bar and restaurants?
Well, as the numbers come down, of course, even 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And then
10 p.m. closing means 9 p.m. last call.
And then eventually open the bars and the clubs and let people get a life back. People, the mental stress that's happened around Hong Kong at the moment, and that's why you have so many expats, so many people leaving.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's why are beaches closed? I mean, is that really standing on a beach? You're really going to get COVID?
Honestly, I think the beaches would have remained open. What happened was, once the virus transmitted into Shenzhen, and I blame the media for that, because what happened was they have a lockdown, a 1-week lockdown that finishes this Sunday, so of course they started to blame, hey, you guys brought us. It's like China got blamed for Wuhan, the original thing. Trump called it, the Wuhan
China virus and all this.
Whatever. And so basically they started to complain, you guys. And the media then took pictures of Repulse Bay, of people on the beach in Repulse Bay without a mask and really not 2 people, but many people just enjoying themselves because the weather's been so great in Hong Kong. I knew a day later, they criticized, sure, we're in lockdown, you guys are on the beach, this is what you did to us. I knew once I saw that rhetoric coming from Shenzhen that there's no choice but to show that we are.
So a lot of this is kind of performative or theatrical. You have to show you're doing something.
If somebody complained, nobody asked her to do it. I think that basically it was just something feeling it's the right thing to do. And again, it's a personal decision.
Sure.
How long it'll be closed? I don't think long, but it just, hopefully as the numbers come down.
Well, for example, when the chief executive says we're going to tighten the restrictions, that means even if you're hiking or jogging, you got to wear your mask. I mean, come on. Does that really make any sense scientifically?
No, a lot of things don't make sense. I agree with you. Why can't you work out in a gym? Gym is supposed to be making you healthy.
What if you have one person at a time in a gym or 2 persons at a time spread out?
I agree with I'm agreeing with you, but it takes, it's a process that takes time. Unfortunately, we'll see what happens with, there's an election coming up. I think Hong Kong people, at least Carrie Lam has realized, saying yesterday, that people are at their wits' end, and so we need to make changes.
Let me ask you about that, because you were almost instrumental, I think, in getting her to know that people are at their wits' end. Yeah. I mean, my question to you is, I've been at my wits' end for a year. People have been at their wits' end over a year.
Yes.
She only seemed to pay attention when you and others said the finance community is at its wits' end and people are leaving. Why is it they only listen when it's the bankers who are pissed off?
Well, because we are supposedly the international financial center. And I understand we have all the head offices of many banks here. And everybody, and what happened was, you can't run a business. And we're talking about big business, not SME.
Well, you're a businessman.
But you cannot run a business without travel, especially bringing executives out from overseas, from your head office overseas and whatever. And so that was a big problem. At the end of the day, you think it'll go on for a few months or something like that. 21 days was a killer for...
It's a killer.
14 was a killer. Then 14 days was better, but still a killer. You can't have an executive coming out, staying 14 days. 7 days is more acceptable. And so I think that she got the message because banks were started to complain, that many people have left for Singapore, Dubai, other places, and so I think that started to sink in, and seeing that unemployment numbers are up, and so these things, if your government starts to hit home,
Sure.
and I think you take an emergency decision no
Well,
matter what.
Let me dig down on that a little bit.
Yeah.
I understand this is a financial center.
Sure.
Bankers are important, but a lot of the bankers I knew who were coming in and out, the company paid for their quarantine. The poor person who had to go visit their dying mother, nobody was paying for their quarantine. The one missing their kid's
I agree.
Why is it they only listen to the bankers and they don't listen to the poor people saying, I need to leave and come back?
Well,
and they can't afford the 21-day quarantine.
I think when you're in it, it's kind of like being on an airplane with turbulence. You're holding on, and you're hoping the pilot will get you through it. We're in turbulence at the moment, and I think that it starts to sink in because again, you listen to your medical experts that tell you you can't let somebody go abroad because they'll bring back, It was the same thing. Why keep people out residents of Hong Kong? Why not allow them to
But they've already tested to get on the plane. They test when they get off the plane.
Exactly. And so it takes time in order to get to this. Listen, this is a new thing that Omicron, nobody's gone to school for it. We're learning on the job. There are, as far as I'm concerned, no experts. Everyone has a different opinion. And so it's just personal feeling from everyone.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like this government eventually comes around to the right decision after they've tried everything else.
Well, they do. They do. I mean, when they suddenly see what's good for Hong Kong, because they don't want to mess up Hong Kong, and they see so many people are leaving, and the bad publicity that's around the world about Hong Kong changing, and it's not the Hong Kong of old, and it's going to lose its name and all that, which I don't believe. I mean, I've been here 50 years, and as I say, I've been through 1997, I've been through 2019, I've been through
bird flu, SARS.
I've been through SARS, I've been through every single thing. And Hong Kong, the beauty of Hong Kong, it always bounces back. Why? Yes, some people leave. They left in 97. 2 years later, they come. Some of them come back. Some of them don't. New people come in. Everybody is here not because of Hong Kong. They're here because of China. And that's basically, with our one country, two systems, our independent judiciary, all these things that really allow businesses to flourish here. And it's not because of the Hong Kong economy, but it's basically, without China, Hong Kong is just a barren rock, a beautiful place to live. I love Hong Kong, but that's basically, so I'm not so concerned. It takes time to get through the turbulence, but we will land the plane safely, and everybody will clap and then walk out.
Well, let me ask you about the people leaving, if I can. I mean, I just wrote down some numbers just from today. It's SCMP. First half of March, 43,000 net people left. In February, net 71,000 people left. One day in March 6th, 5,000 people left.
I know.
I mean, a lot of the, and I know some of these people, and some of them are going to Singapore, some are going back to UK or state. They're not all expats. Some are local Hong Kongers. I mean, that's big.
It is big. I sit on the airport authority. I'm the chairman of the business development.
By the way, I went to the Airport Express the other day, and it was sad looking down into the.
Trust me, you don't have to tell me. I've been living this for 3 years.
I mean, this is sad.
I've been living this for 3 years.
So my question is, can you really get these people to come back?
Well, not everybody that's left. If you look at those figures, not everybody that's left is not coming back. I don't know the percentage of those that have left. What I found in the past is as soon as Hong Kong opens up and kind of gets back to normal or whatever, we know in the last 2 years with the Alpha Delta, not many people left. I mean, because we had
the rest of the world was terrible.
We had 0 cases.
This was great.
And so right now, as I say, we're going through what the rest of the world went through. Same thing happened in New York when it hit in the U.S. and many people left New York for other parts of the United States, upstate, whatever. And then suddenly, now New York is booming again.
Yep, absolutely.
So I know we lived through it, but I really, really do believe we will come back. And those people that wind up staying, always do very, very well. I've seen it happen.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, I every week or so, I live in a relatively small apartment building. I look out and I see a moving van. And it's a small enough building. I know people. I say, "Where are you guys going?" They're going to UK. They're going to Canada. They're going to Singapore.
It's heartbreaking. Of course, it's heartbreaking. But I try my best to try to let the government know. I do sit on Carrie Lam's Economic Advisory Committee. I know all the government officials, and so I do, and I WhatsApp with many of them, just to let them know And sometimes it does take time. When you're in government, you understand there's a lot of bureaucracy,
Sure.
and it's just something you live with. Not just this government, everywhere in the world.
Sure.
It's no different. U.S. is no different. UK is no different.
Well, they were, I mean, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, but they were so focused, the government was so focused on getting that border open with mainland China, so they had to maintain zero COVID, which meant that the border was kind of closed to the rest of the world with the 21-day quarantine. Was that the right either or?
Well, at the time, okay, the decision that Carrie Lam took was that, you know, 2/3 of Hong Kong is Chinese. Our biggest trading partner is China. And so, and the Shenzhen border crossing is the most traveled border crossing in the world. And so basically, it made sense to try to get the border with China open. We were 2 days away after the end of the Delta of opening up the border. Everything was going to be okay. And suddenly, Omicron hit. And so China, which I understand, closed the border, because if Omicron really got into China in a big way with 1.4 billion people, the world would be in trouble, not just China. You'd have a lot of deaths, and the hospital system would be magnified by 25 times what happened in Hong Kong. And so that was the reason. So she closed the international flight, and maybe it was not the right thing to say, is we're going to do China first and we'll worry about international later. And that kind of made a lot of expats mad, and and didn't see a future, and they thought Hong Kong, and they can't go home to see their parents, their kids, whatever.
And Hong Kongers who need to travel to see their kids overseas
as well. But I think she now realizes that maybe we have to open up international. My idea, and I haven't really discussed this with the government yet, but if China really cannot get a hold of this Omicron and the border will remain closed and we don't know how long, why not do something like Beijing did during the Olympics, whereby they created a bubble, travel bubble into Beijing, and all the athletes stayed at the Olympic Village. They couldn't go into Beijing. They did whatever they have to do, and then left and had a very successful Olympics. Better than the one in Japan, in Tokyo.
No, absolutely.
And so, what I'm saying is, if the border with China really cannot open, why not have a travel bubble for Hong Kong with the rest of the world? And once you have that, people can come to Hong Kong, maybe 7-day quarantine now, it would help a lot. And then if somebody needs to go into China, you go into China, you do the 21 or 28-day quarantine, whatever China demands. It's nothing, but Hong Kong kind of is the gateway to China, which it always will be.
Sure.
And so we open up the rest of the world so businesses can start getting back in business and bringing executives out, and we get the normal Hong Kong back again.
Like Singapore has vaccination lanes.
Yeah.
If you've been vaccinated and boosted, you can go in one lane. Why not do that?
No, exactly. I'm saying there are models that we can follow, and Singapore is one. And so that's another thing, vaccine lanes, because people getting on an airplane have to show vaccination, that they've been vaccinated and show
boosted,
negative,
or if you
and
need
boosted,
that, or whatever,
and show negative. And when they arrive, they get tested again. And if you're negative, it should be okay.
You're fine.
Especially since COVID since Omicron is 3 or 4 days of infection time.
Sure.
So basically, just follow the science, as they say. They're following the science. And so I agree. I mean, that's something that I think is mandatory. And I think that hopefully, we'll know after this weekend, hopefully things change, that the international gets open again. People can start breathing again. And
living
literally
life, living normal
life again.
Not being afraid of a virus.
Yes, and the mental toll that it's taken on many, many, many families, many, many people can then be diminished.
Yeah. Can I ask you,
Sure.
I'm getting a bit of whiplash here. So one week they say there's going to be mass testing. The next week they say, no, we're not going to do mass tests. The next week they say, we're going to have a lockdown. It's definitely going to come March 26th. Then they say, no, we can't do a lockdown here. Then Carrie Lam says, there's not going to be any tightening of restrictions. However, we're going to close the beaches. And then she says, no, we're not going to lift the flight ban at all. And then she says yesterday, we're thinking about lifting the flight ban. Do you understand when people don't trust the government because they say one thing, they do another?
Honestly, I understand it very, very well. And that was the reason that prompted me to write that so-called letter that was a private public
letter that got published.
Because exactly whoever that follower is said. I felt exactly that way, and because we're getting mixed messages. Carrie Lam coming out saying no mass testing. 4 days later, Sophia Chan comes out and says, "Oh, we're thinking of 21-day mass testing." The thought of that horrified me, and so we needed to get something not to stir up the people.
Sure.
That's a time that people look to government for confidence,
Right.
and we weren't getting that. And hopefully, and they're right, I can't say anything. Hopefully the government's learning now. They're speaking with what you can see now. She comes every day, 11 a.m. except Tuesday, and at least giving a positive message out, and don't believe all the fake news, because there's so much fake news that floats around, which also upsets me.
Yeah.
The China built, the toilet, the bathrooms,
Right.
and they some idiot, and I could say idiot, put on the social media that there's no walls, around, it's all
Exactly.
open, and it's not so. I mean, if you
Yeah.
go and see that the toilets are fine,
Yeah.
and so that doesn't help.
I
In a
agree.
situation like this.
I agree. Can I just quibble with one thing?
Sure.
People call that fake news.
Yeah.
That wasn't news. That was some idiot putting something on social media.
I-
Journalists didn't report that.
I know, but in today's world, social media
Yeah.
is as important as news.
Well, yeah,
It
but
is news.
people blame the journalists when the journalists are actually
I'm not blaming
trying to do their
journalists. No,
job.
I understand. I'm not blaming journalists. I'm just saying I wish people were more responsible. In a time like this is not a time. This is time for everyone to pull together. It's for everybody's sake. All they're trying to do is save lives.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have an aging population, people who are not vaccinated, and we have the highest number of deaths in the world now.
Absolutely. Can I ask you, but you wrote a piece, I think it came out yesterday in China Daily, and you did kind of blame the media. I have to admit, I don't like it when people talk about the media, because the media is a lot of things. It could be Tsingtao or Mingpao or CNN.
Sure.
But you said that the sarcastic mainstream media narratives, and you blame the media, for example, for reporting on the empty store shelves, when the empty store shelves was caused by Sophia Chan saying there's going to be a lockdown.
I agree. No, what I meant there was that I wasn't talking about the local media in general, because local media has actually been okay.
Okay, yeah.
I've talked a lot about the foreign media, because I've done a lot of foreign.
You have, yes.
A lot. And they're really anti, and it's not even about Hong Kong. At the end of the day, it's a Western country against China. And so the slant, if you're doing it, you would understand. Pardon, maybe I should have said that it's not the local media. The local media, in essence, has been pretty fair,
Yeah.
in
I mean, they're
general.
just reporting what's happening.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was not meant for local media. It was just, as I say, do a lot of foreign media, and every time you come in, you're ready to have a battle, because they just try to portray how bad Hong Kong is, and I will not. I will kill for Hong Kong.
Sure, yeah, no, I understand that, but I mean, I think it's even a bit unfair to say all the foreign media. Or
I don't
just
say
some
all,
things
but in general, I very rarely have had great interviews. I mean, of course, it's not all, but I mean, in general, it's just a fact, and it's not about Hong Kong. If it was about Hong Kong, I can understand, I can accept that. But again, it's about China, and it's really to make Hong Kong look bad, and that's not. I want to paint the right picture for Hong Kong. It's important for Hong Kong's sake, for all of our sakes.
Sure, and do you? I mean, I guess the question is, how much of a hit do you think Hong Kong has taken with its reputation as a global financial and media hub? How much of a hit?
I think, of course, it has. I can't be it'd be remiss for me to say it hasn't. But it does recover pretty quickly. People have short memories. It's like U.S. or UK now, or whatever. Even though the virus is coming back, more than 50%.
South Korea,
of these countries.
everywhere. Yeah.
I mean, but people have short memories, and everything's great again. And I speak to friends, and I have businesses in the U.S. and in other places. They're back to normal. They're living with it and back to normal, and you forget about what happened before. Taking their mask off and going out and partying all night. And
I saw the Super Bowl. It was jam-packed, 70,000 people in Los Angeles.
It is. I talked to a friend who's in the UK right now. The clubs are packed. The restaurants are packed. He was sitting at a table till 11 p.m. They asked him if he could leave after 11 because the table's booked after 11 p.m. So I mean, it's it's human nature. In Hong Kong, we'll get back to that, and then suddenly, after a short while, we'll forget what happened.
But what will it take, though? I mean, does Hong
Well,
Kong
I
need to
think- I think-
positively do something
well,
to say we're back in business?
I think yes. I think we need to do some PR that we are back in business, but the proof will be in the pudding. I mean, if we can really show that we are, that Hong Kong is the old Hong Kong, and we're doing whatever we can, and hopefully the virus, China gets a hold of the virus, and hopefully the numbers are going down, and and if they can do that. And so we can slowly get back to life.
Sure, yeah. Well, let me ask you, you're an FCC member. Right?
Yeah.
What role do institutions like the FCC play in projecting that image of this is a place for foreigners are welcome, it's an international center? We've been here 70 years in Hong Kong, 72 years in Hong Kong, and 40 years in this beautiful heritage building.
I think it is a beautiful heritage building. I think it's very important that it stays in Hong Kong. FCC, of course, they've had a few rocky roads, over the years, but that's nothing new. I mean, at the end of the day, FCC provides a very good media opening for people, and people can express themselves and freely. And in general, I think it's important. I think that we are an international community. 1/3 of Hong Kong is expat, is international, and so. It's nothing wrong, I mean, listen, media people reporters need a place to hang out.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
And so FCC is a perfect place, and reporters coming from all over the world, if they're coming to Hong Kong, they're on their way to China or wherever, they'll come to FCC just to, just to converse with people of their, in their industry. And I think it's really important. I think they provide a very, very good. A good thing for Hong Kong.
Well, I've been saying, when Hong Kong opens up, to say we're still in business, what better way to send the message to say, look, we got the FCC.
Listen, the more messages that get out from everyone, not just FCC, but everyone, parents, families, telling your families overseas, hey, we're back, and it's not so bad. Come back, and some will come back. Some obviously have taken their children out of schools, so it's difficult for them to come back because their children are in school, and it's disruptive to bring a kid back. But I think in general, I'm pretty confident between China companies opening up here and international people coming here. China's the fastest growing economy of the world. If you want to do business, if you're in business, you have to be in Hong Kong. Singapore is fine, but it's different.
Yeah.
And the laws in Singapore, as we all know, are a lot stricter than Hong Kong.
Yeah. Although, one last thing, and I want to get to some questions that are coming in.
Sure.
I know that when this whole question about the isolation facilities came up, and people were afraid of going to these things. Well, two questions. First thing is, I know people who said they tested positive, but they said, there's no way I'm reporting that to the government.
I know a lot as well.
Yeah, I mean, and then you had Chris Tang, the Secretary of Security, former head of police, saying, if you don't go, we're going to arrest you. Is that the right message?
No, but he's actually a good guy, Chris Tang. He helped us a lot in 2019 with the protests. But sometimes when you're brought up in that environment, as security, you are.
Every problem can be resolved by.
You are hard-nosed, and basically that's what I think. The more he gets in, it's a new job. The more he gets into it, there's a different way to send that message. I agree. It was a bit hard-nosed at the time, but
it's a bit harsh to say if you don't go and we're told you to go to isolation, we're going to arrest you.
That caused a lot of angst, and basically it was up to Carrie Lam later on to say, people can self-isolate if you have to. It took a while to get there that they can say that.
They eventually get to the right decision.
They do. Eventually, yes. Eventually, they get there.
Let me ask a few questions here. Chris Lawrence asked, given the dramatic change in the stance of the chief executive yesterday regarding the mental state of citizens in Hong Kong and the financial sector, and given the statement from President Xi that China will stick with zero COVID, how does this rumored relaxation fit with the central government's aims? I think I asked it earlier. Is Kerry going rogue?
Central government, they give guidelines of what they think you should do, whatever. They don't tell you, they don't micromanage Hong Kong unless you ask for their help. They'll come in, they'll do what they think needs to be done. They'll show you the way, and then they leave. And so I think that President Xi doesn't expect Carrie to follow every single thing that he's saying. She has the autonomy to literally do what the government here thinks it's right, because China's a big place. The last thing they need, they got
They're not
problems
micromanaging.
coming out of their ears. So anyone that understands that will know that they just want you to get on with. They want every profit. They try to get on with managing. If you get into problems, okay, we want to know about it. We want you to fix it. You know, you've seen in China many times they've fired people. Leaders who have. Maybe not followed the sequence, whatever. And so I think that basically, I just want to clear that up. Hong Kong government really, all the decisions come from ourselves.
It's Hong Kong.
Yes, and of course it's checked with, we have the liaison office here that also gives advice, and they work quite closely with the government, and the Hong Kong Macau Affairs Office out of Beijing as well, and the Sha Balong, who's a very, very intelligent, very, very good man, who also, will give advice. It's his job. He's the one here to give advice. So basically, it comes from Hong Kong.
And a question from Dan. Well, it's a bit long, so I'll just shorten and summarize. He said he says he's been able to travel, but he's worried about the mental exhaustion of living in this city. And the basic question is, are there any words of encouragement with people struggling from this kind of mental exhaustion of quarantine and constantly changing goalposts?
I can well understand, because I had mental exhaustion as well, so I know where you're coming from. I mean, as I say, the good thing is you already breathe easier when they say they're coming down to 7 days, hopefully from 14 days quarantine, and hopefully we're seeing the tail end. Hopefully we're going to the tail end of the virus. I've looked around the world. There's a pattern for Omicron, and so it follows.
It does go up quickly and then come back down.
Comes down. Every country follows. So I think we're going to see better days ahead. So you feel mentally, you start to breathe a sigh of relief. When you're kind of struggling with it and doing whatever dynamic zero or whatever dynamic clearing or whatever you want to call it, everybody is mentally fatigued, and businesses are closed, and you think, am I going to go bankrupt or whatever? So I can well understand, but hopefully now there's light at the end of the tunnel. The ESS, Employment Subsidy Scheme, helped a lot in 2020. It'll help a lot for FCC. It'll help a lot for everywhere. And I think in general, people could start to slowly get a life back.
Okay. Now, do you want a kind of combative question from your friend Emily Lau?
100%. I'm used to Emily.
You were on her show.
I was on her show.
Emily Lau says, why is the Carrie Lam administration so reluctant or even contemptuous of public opinion? Do you think the medical experts at our universities are giving the government professional and independent advice? And if so, if they are, then why is Hong Kong in such a catastrophic state?
It's a good question. I mean, to be a Monday morning quarterback, basically, it's easy to call the shots, but when you're making these decisions, it's not easy. I don't say the government has done everything positively. They haven't. I mean, have they done a good job on this? I think they did a good job on Alpha Delta.
Yes.
I think they became
this was the best place to be.
And I think they became overconfident on this Omicron. And instead of looking around the world, again, I'll repeat it, the mistake they made was not having mandatory vaccination. That would have been a game changer in Hong Kong. We didn't do it. We, again, listened to families and whatever. No, we should have become strict. We're strict on many other things.
Right.
Why not on that? And I do believe, because we were lucky. Vaccines were not a problem here.
We had it.
We had everything.
I had it before my friends in the U.S.
We had
were able to get it.
we had Pfizer, we had Sinovac. I mean, we had everything.
I was boosted last November.
Exactly.
I'm ready to get a fourth.
And we didn't pay for it.
And we didn't have to pay a penny.
Exactly.
You go online. It was easy to book.
In essence, they did a very good job. The problem was getting, and you remember, because we were a victim of our own success, because many people did not want to get vaccinated. Well, what do I have to take it? We're at 50% for a long time for the first vaccination. It just took time. And so it's easy, Emily, it's easy to criticize the government, and all that. But, I'm a positive person. I look beyond the criticism. It's good for Hong Kong if we all work together. And really, if the government is weak, or whatever you want to call it, we work together to try to make it strong, because that's what helps us. That's what helps. Let's Go is a thing that really helps to pass bills to help the people of Hong Kong. Without Let's Go being stuck like it was the past number of years, that's why Hong Kong was falling behind. And so hopefully now, It's a new system. Let's try it. Let's live with it and see what happens.
Question from Greg Crandall. He says, be it the misuse of the emergency warning system or any other disastrous decision, what is it about the lack of true compassion and the chief executive's insistence that she actually made the right decision? Is there some? I've heard this before.
It's a personality. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes people think they're very, very smart. They're over smart. They're overconfident, and until they screw up at the end of the day, I was scared out of my mind when I got that siren as well on my phone. And so. Many people, whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing, there's two sides to that, and maybe you can change it. Does that be as violent as
or this could be an acknowledgement. We're sorry.
I know.
Have you ever heard? I'm sorry if that upset people. Maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. I mean, she's now starting to say, "Listen, I didn't make even this morning. If you listen to her, I did. In many cases, I didn't make the best decisions, whatever." She did admit that, and so which was a big come down. Yeah, which was a big come down. I think she's starting to realize that we need to open up, and we are losing a lot of people, and I think that's why I think there's a change.
Because you and others went to her and said the same.
Well, yes, I mean I do. I mean I do. Listen, I know Carrie. I've been with Carrie for many years. She was my chair. Well, she was my chair lady in West Kowloon for 6 years, and I was her chairman in Ocean Park. So I mean, I've been with Carrie I go back a long time. The problem is many of these government people have never been in business before. They've been in government all their life. Carrie's been a bureaucrat all her life, and so it's different. Private business is different than being in government. I wear two hats. I help the government. I understand because you're dealing with public money, and so it's difficult. In private business, it's your own money, or it's your
investors' money,
investors' money, or that kind of thing. So you make different kinds of decisions, and so. Things don't move as quickly, and there's a lot of bureaucracy. I'm calling for them for future to cut the bureaucracy so we can move things quickly. And this is not just Hong Kong. Every government I look around the world, every system around the world has problems.
Sure, absolutely. That segues into something I meant to ask you. Ronnie Chan, who
yes,
you know, Asia Society and Hang Long, he had a piece, you may have seen it,
yes.
and he said, the problems with here, he said, it has more to do with the personalities, specifically a lack of humility and an overabundance of unfounded self-confidence.
Well,
is that fair?
Ronnie has a way with words, and he's a friend of mine, and so he always has been. He has not always been a huge supporter of Carrie Lam. He was CY's supporter, and CY Leung was the chief executive, and so there's always been kind of a riff, but whether he's right or he's not wrong. I mean, at the end of the day,
overabundance of unfounded self-confidence.
Well, I mean, he's just basically Ronnie's a very smart guy. He's done very, very well. He's one of the tycoons in Hong Kong, and so I think basically he's just saying how he felt, and many of the Hong Kong people felt the same way. That also prompted me with my letter.
And we've got a lot of questions coming in here asking you about the chief executive and whether you would support her for another term, how you think she has done in her job. I'm just summarizing all of them. You're a businessman. If she worked for you as a manager, would you rehire her?
I can answer that because, in essence, I am one of the 1,500 election committee members.
Okay.
So I have a vote.
Yes. Okay. Could you reveal it to us?
But I take it very seriously because basically, not everybody has a vote, and so I think that, in fairness to the public, I need to see who will be running. I mean, honestly, and that's an honest answer. We have the nominations start on April 3rd for 2 weeks, and then the election will be May 8th, and so to make up your mind at this moment, I don't know who else is running. No one really has come forward. So in fairness to the public, let's see who's running during that 2-week nomination period. And then I can tell you, ask me the question again, once I see who's running, I can tell you whether, I don't even know if Carrie's going to run again.
We don't know that,
maybe she won't.
A lot of people are asking the question, they're saying, just given what you know about the performance, do you think this administration deserves another term?
No, I think that basically we would need a lot of changes, and again, depends who's running, because she might be better than somebody else.
Sure.
So again, in fairness to the public, I know they want an answer, and I'd love to answer it, but I just want to be fair. Let's see who's running, and then ask me the question.
Regina Ip, you supported in the past.
I have a
she
good
be good?
relationship with Regina Ip. She's very smart. She speaks well. I mean, she can be stubborn, but she listens. And so, it depends. I think she wants to run again, and so we'll see. I mean, it's 3 times she has been successful, but we'll see what happens. If
Joe Biden ran 3
who
times.
else? Yeah. We'll see what else. And he showed that 78 years old, there's life beyond 70.
You got some mojos, right?
There's life beyond 70.
Your hat's not in the ring, right?
No. I've been asked many times.
Okay, just wondering here. A couple more questions before we have to go. One, this is from Alexandra Young, who says, why is it that we can't even seem to have a travel bubble to Macau? It seems if you can open the border with China, then surely we can open that to Macau.
I think that I agree with that. I declare interest. I'm the non-executive chairman of Wynn.
Oh, wow!
Yeah,
Steve
so of course, I would love it. But Macau is a small place, and I think they're also very, very strict because the majority of their business does come from China, and so they're worried potentially that if they get infected, they don't have hospitals. It would be a real problem.
So they're more interested in the China border than the Hong Kong crossing.
Hong Kong's important, but of course not as important as the China crossing, and so I think they kind of play by the rules, and that's where their biggest market is. Although Hong Kong is a very good market for Macau.
I want to end with the last question from Steve Berry here, who said, do you have anything to say to Hong Kong professionals with young children who are considering leaving Hong Kong for the UK?
Yeah.
Or why staying here may offer them a better future for their children? Good question.
It's a very good question. And I can honestly say I've been here, as I said, 50 years, and I do see the future for Hong Kong. The Greater Bay Area, you're talking about 11 cities in the southern China, 1.5-hour radius by high-speed rail, Hong Kong, Macau, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou being the 4 key cities with the other 7 peripheral cities. So 1.5 hours by high-speed rail. It takes 14 minutes on the train to get to Shenzhen today, faster than for me to get to Repulse Bay. And so that's 84. You're talking about 84 million people, a GDP last year of 1.67 trillion US dollars, bigger than the GDP of South Korea. And so that is, I'm a businessman, being here, and especially and I've got grandkids, and all that, they're all in Hong Kong because the future is China, of the world, to me anyhow, is China. And I've been in China for 45 years. I see, and China just continues to get better and better. And people have not been to China, and are detractors because they think of the old China. China's not what it was in the old days, China's, they do a very good job in what they're doing. And so there is huge opportunity for young people in the future. And also, Carrie Lam has come through with the Northern Metropolis, which is next to Shenzhen. Technology, we've been lacking technology. Housing, China's already told the government, number 1 priority is housing. I want to get everybody in Hong Kong into a bigger house, like other cities, like Singapore, like other cities, and getting 90% of the people to own their own home. Working out, Singapore's done it. We can do it in Hong Kong. We do have land. And so I believe somebody with a can-do attitude can do it. That will solve a lot of problems. And once we do that, Hong Kong is still one of the best, nicest places in the world to live. I mean, UK is different. US is different. Canada's different. I've lived in some of these places, and so I can understand. But honestly, I'd rather be out here, and that's just my own choice.
Sure.
And I could live anywhere in the world. I mean,
you could leave anytime.
I could leave. I've got money. I've got everything. But you know what? I still choose Hong Kong.
So you're betting on Hong Kong.
I bet on Hong Kong, and I've been right up to now. It's been very good to me up to now. I came here when I was 19 years old with limited funds, basically. Didn't come from a rich family. My father died when I was 7 years old, but I made my fortune here, and I'll continue to do that because Hong Kong is safe. I look at other places around the world, it's not as safe as Hong Kong.
Last question we always like to ask everybody,
Yeah.
what are you reading these days? We also ask about books, but tell us your secret. There's
I'm
a secret.
embarrassed to tell you, I've never read a book in my life, believe it or not. I've got 6 honorary doctorate degrees from universities, never went to university either. But I mean, I just can't get into books, but I do read 6 newspapers every single day. I mean, online or
Which
whatever.
6?
I read SCMP, the Wall Street Journal. I read the Standard, which has gotten very, very good
Standard
today.
breaks some news.
Yeah, that's right. It's gotten a lot better than it used to be. And then I have Chinese newspapers like Ming Pao. 01 online is very, very good. I like 01. I like Ming Pao. You know, and then Sing Tao. You know, those are some of the ones. And then again, seeing some of the TV, you know, news. I watch news. I'm a news hound.
You're a news junkie.
When I was a kid, my ambition in life was to be a reporter. Believe it or not.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's
So
why you're,
I-
that's
so
why you're
I
an
can-
FCC member.
I can feel. I can really feel it very, very, very much. I mean, I always did. I still remember at 7 years old, lying on the floor and reading the newspapers at the time. So you know, having it stretched out, and so I enjoy that, and I exercise every day of my life. I mean. For 50 years now, I do 1 hour and 20 minutes every morning,
Well,
and that's something I'm religious because my dad died a heart attack at 50. I wanted to outlive him, which I have, and so while I'm on the machine, I'm reading online, you know, a lot of the newspapers, and that really helps me a lot.
Right, and that's why you can do the steps in Lan Kwai Fong. You can get
So
up.
I
on
can
those
do the steps. That's for sure. I'm in pretty good shape.
You're in great shape, and last secret, you're a teetotaler.
I am, believe it or not. I've never drank in my life, believe it or not. Honestly, don't tell anyone. I've never drank a beer in my life. I once tried a little taste that didn't taste good to me, but don't tell anyone because we sell a lot of it. So
Okay, you've heard it here first at the FCC. The Godfather does not drink.
yeah,
And he's an FCC member, and he thinks
That's right.
we're doing a great job here. So-
you are. Keep it up.
All right, good. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Thank you all for listening.
Okay,
This will be on
okay.
YouTube if you missed
Yep.
it live.
Okay,
Thank
and
you for coming.
everybody, have confidence. I promise you, Hong Kong will survive and will be very, very good. So if everybody just pulls together, we'll have a great place to live.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.